welcome back to day number 4 of our 30-day Q&A challenge. Today our question comes from Kody, and Kody has been following us on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. He's been following us absolutely everywhere. He's one of the first people that if we put a post up, he hits share, and therefore, Kody, man, I know that I wanted to get to your question super early on, and I sent you a message back when you submitted it because I really dig this question. So guys, I'm going to answer Kody's question just in a second, but I'm going to let you know what it is. Kody asked if I could only have 5 pieces of tack to start a Colt, what would those 5 pieces of tack be? And then after that, I'm also going to share with you what my #1 favorite piece of tack is to educate any of my horses. If you could only give me one thing to train my horses, I'm going to tell you exactly what that is as well. And of course, I'm not just going to tell you what these pieces of tack are. I'm going to tell you exactly why I would choose these pieces of tack, because intentionality, having the awareness, having a good reason and purpose behind these things is the reason why you guys want to listen to these videos. Not just do you need a saddle, like why do you need the saddle, this, that, and the other thing. Of course we know why, but let's dive into those pieces of tack. Now, I do need to ask you guys a quick favor. Typically when we put these videos up on Facebook and Instagram, we're typically getting 1,500, 2,500, 5,000 views on these videos. But since we've started this challenge, we have been inundated with the fact that Facebook only lets these videos get out to a very small percentage of our organic following. So if you saw this video on your news feed, you are one of the very lucky few, because we've gone from a 1,500 to a 2,500 view range down to less than 200 views on each of these videos because of whatever the algorithm is doing. So all I would ask, if you guys could help us out, I'm putting a lot of time in these videos, trying to bring y'all as much valuable content as possible, is could you please either click share down below in this video or tag your friends in the comments below. That way they get a notification and they can actually see this video. So many people are not seeing this video, and I'm trying to share it in every way possible, but the organic reach has greatly diminished. And honestly, I think part of it is because Facebook ads have gone down and they're trying to boost up the revenue, so they're maybe suppressing the organic reach. But nonetheless, there's enough about that geeky stuff. Let's go ahead and dive into this next question. And yes, thank you to anybody that does decide to share this video with your friends. We greatly appreciate it. We're just simply here, guys. As you know, my name is Colt Woods, and my passion, my focus, my purpose is to give you and your horses the absolute best horse experience possible, to give your horse the best human experience possible. There is not one of us that didn't get into horses because we fell in love with the horse. And so many times I see that people go from loving horses to having an experience with a horse or their particular horse where things get frustrating because we lack the knowledge, we're missing the skill sets on how to communicate what we want to with our horses, and things just really get frustrating. And I'm here to help you guys as much as possible to be able to bridge that gap, to be able to build that partnership, build that connection, be able to build what I refer to as a working partnership with your horses, where you can not only share that relationship, but you can go out and do what you enjoy doing with your horse, find what your horse enjoys doing, and go out and build the memories, build the experiences together for the rest of your lives. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. I want to help you and your horses the absolute best way possible. So again, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get to Kody's question. So Kody asked, if I could only have 5 pieces of tack to start a Colt, what would it be? And honestly, most of these pieces of tack, whether I'm starting a Colt or I'm going to be riding a more seasoned horse, are going to be very much the same. Now, I'm very detail-oriented, so I'm going to go through this piece by piece, and then I'm going to have a couple like on-the-bubble type pieces of tack because, quite honestly, my first 2 are pretty obvious. I need a saddle, and I want a saddle pad. Okay, so I got my saddle and my saddle pad, and those are my 2. Like, we got to have those. Now, do we have to include a cinch? Does the cinch have to be piece number 3? That's kind of my question to you guys. You know, does the cinch get to come with the saddle, or do I need to include the cinch as a 3rd piece of tack? So I'm gonna give you guys 5 things, and then I'm gonna have that one that if I have to include the cinch as my 3rd piece of tack, then so be it. I only get 2 more, right? I got my pad, I got my saddle, I got my cinch, And I only got 2 more things that I can use. And I'll tell you what those are. But if you guys are really, really kind, you guys are really sweet people, and I get to include that with my saddle, I'm going to show you guys 3 things that I'll take with me, because I'll have my saddle and my cinch, then I'll have my saddle pad. All right, so let's just see how this goes. The third thing the third/4th thing that I'm going to have is I'm going to want a halter, particularly when I'm starting a colt. You know, some people might want a snaffle bit, some people might want another piece of tack. When I'm starting a colt, I really like to put those first few rides on a colt in a halter, and the reason I like to do so is oftentimes they have been led throughout their lives, and they understand the feel of a halter already. And so when I go through the colt starting process and I go step by step by step by step, as I go from one step to the next step, I like to just change one thing at a time. So I like to be able to prepare my horses as much as I can to where if the time comes where I go to actually get on their back for the first time, I've done the groundwork, I've done the prep work, and the only thing that really is changing in that moment from me stepping from the ground onto their back is the perspective of me being on their back. I'm not going to ask them to do anything that they haven't already done. I'm not going to change the piece of headgear on their face while I'm getting on them, because I'd be changing 2 things at a time, right? I'm not going to go ahead and just put a snaffle on them and then get on their back and change 2 things. You know, if I was going to ride one in a snaffle, I would be spending the time to prepare them in the snaffle from the ground before I went ahead and got on their back. So I really like a halter to start those first few rides and really build that horse's confidence in having a rider on their back. Because honestly, too, I found if you're riding a really green colt and you go to put a snaffle on them, you lose a lot of focus, because now they're going, hey, I've got this thing in my mouth and I've only ever had food and water put in my mouth, and you lose some focus on them. You can absolutely start colts on the first ride or first few rides with a snaffle on them. I've done it. You can absolutely do it. But if I have the option to break things down and really make things easier for those horses, I'm going to start with a halter. A couple of days later, transition them into another piece of headgear, whether that be a snaffle or hackamore, and go from there. So saddle, we got our saddle pad, we got our halter, and if I didn't have to take my cinch, if my cinch got to include my saddle, the 4th thing that I would include would be a horsemanship flag. And so this was the piece that I was like, man, do I really want to take this with me? Do I not want to take this with me? And this is my bubble piece. This is my bubble piece of tack. So if my cinch wasn't included in those with my saddle, then I would probably push the flag out. I probably would not have the flag. But if I got to take an extra thing with me, it would be the flag. And I just really like the opportunity of using the flag, because it can really help get a horse really quiet and comfortable and confident. It can really help a sensitive horse be able to focus and to redirect their attention. And so if I got to have it, that would be awesome. If I didn't, I could probably still make it work without that flag. But it is a really great tool that I lean on, and we'll have to show you guys sometimes. We just had some brand new awesome horsemanship flags made, and I probably should share some photos with you guys because they're pretty wicked awesome. They're super light, they're handmade. Yeah, they're awesome. I've been using them for a couple weeks now. Now, the last piece of tack that I would have, this is my 5th one, okay, is a lariat or my 60-foot rope. This is hands down, particularly in a colt starting, Kody, this is what I'm taking, because I can get so much done with this 60-foot rope. Now, I use a 60-foot rope that's a soft rope that's meant for roping calves, it's meant for roping horses, and it's an extremely soft rope. It has a metal Honda on it, so that once you rope something, when you release the tension, the loop in the rope releases really well. And absolutely got to have this for a colt starting. And honestly, I love having it around. I have mine really handy in the barn at all times, because there's nothing more powerful than teaching a horse how to lead off of a neck rope, to really understand how to get them connected to their feet, how to teach them to lead off of, how to move off of pressure. And particularly in a colt starting, if you guys have watched Road to the Horse, like I did this last year, yeah, it's kind of imperative that you know how to rope a colt. You know, I think 4 out of 6 or 5 out of 6 competitors ended up roping their horses to get them caught. And it's just a really good tool to have. It's a really good skill set to have, particularly in the profession of starting horses, training horses for the public, is to be able to rope. You can get a horse super quiet with their feet by using this rope. You can take the coils and you can pat them on the back. You can rub them down. You can rub this right behind their elbow and get them ready for the feeling of that cinch. You could put it over them and use it as a belly rope. And honestly, when I told you guys my Pieces of Tack here, I put a halter because I didn't include a lead rope, because I kind of felt like if you're like, oh, we would get that halter and lead, right? We don't say get that halter lead. We say get that halter and a lead rope. So I felt like the halter and the lead rope were two different things. And so I just went with the halter, and I went with my 60-foot rope. That way, if I needed to catch this colt, I could go ahead and catch him. I could get the halter on him, and then I could use my 60-foot rope as a lead rope to help that horse. And then I have the coils that I can help build that horse's confidence. I can be able to use it to kind of work through any emotions. I can rub them to a stop. I can do all of these things with that 60-foot rope. So I'm going to keep it pretty basic. I got my saddle. I got my saddle pad. I'll have a halter. I got my 60-foot rope. And then again, if that cinch is included with my saddle, then I'm taking a horsemanship flag. Those are the 5 things I'm taking. Now, with that being said, I want to share with you guys my absolute hands down favorite piece of tack to educate my horses in. This is going to be a piece of headgear, and I'm going to explain to you really briefly why this is my favorite. So I mentioned earlier that in the first few rides, I really enjoy putting my horse and riding them in a halter just to make that transition easy. From there, my absolute hands down favorite piece of tack is going to be the Hackamore. Okay, the Hackamore is the complete setup where it is a rawhide boselle, right? This is different than a loping Hackamore. It's a rawhide boselle with horsehair reins and a hanger, which is the head stall that holds that boselle on. The Hackamore is the whole setup. The boselle is just the rawhide braided piece that goes around the horse's nose. You ride it with horsehair reins. You got the hanger, as I mentioned, that holds that boselle onto their head. After those first few rides, my personal horses and any horses that the clients give me permission to, they will spend the next little while in that Hackamore. I absolutely love using this Hackamore because I can ride them with wide hands to really work on the lateral bend through the body, to really get them focused, to bring their attention. It's a very easy transition from a halter into the Hackamore because the feel is slightly different. There's a little more firmness to the boselles, but it's a very similar feel than the halter, rather than going from a halter into a snaffle. So it's my absolute favorite. And the amazing thing about a boselle is that it's meant to be ridden in two-handed. It's a green horse piece of equipment, but it's also a great piece of equipment to be able to advance our horse's education, because ultimately it's meant to be able to be ridden in one-handed. It does have the ability to work on vertical flexion, vertical engagement of our horses, because it's a working tool. It's meant to where you can ride it one-handed and be able to rope or do garrocha or do any kind of job out of your other, work a gait in your offhand. So that's really important. And the horsehair reins are very, very intentional. They're a training aid. They have a lot of feel that you can really work with those horses on teaching them how to get those reins connected to their feet, making sure that those reins, they understand how to neck rein. And the Hackamore is one of the most versatile tools you can possibly have in your toolbox. And if you're someone that is dedicated to developing your feel, developing your timing, developing the balance in how you communicate with your horses, the Hackamore has fundamentally changed my horsemanship. I mean, years ago when I first started riding a Hackamore, it advanced my horsemanship tenfold, because there's things that we can do in a snaffle that we're not going to get away with in that Hackamore. And so our timing gets a lot better. We understand how to maintain, when to kind of hold that pressure and let that horse find that softness, when to add a little bit of a bump or a vibration through the rein, and all those things. So the Hackamore is hands down my favorite for a horsemanship, from the human side of developing our education, as well as from the horse side of of developing their education. So without that being said, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to day number 4. If you want your questions answered, you just pop them down in the comments below. Again, if you made it this far, please just share this with your friends. Help us kind of defeat this Facebook and Instagram algorithm as much as you can. And we'll look forward to talking with you guys tomorrow on day number 5. Have a blessed day.